The palace floated above a dead blue world, silent and cold, like it was watching everything below. Inside it, thousands of halls twisted and crossed each other, filled with light, guards, and powerful alien nobles. But deep under all that beauty, there were places no one cared about anymore. That was where Elia worked. She was a human maid, small and thin, wearing a faded uniform that never quite fit her. No one spoke to her unless they were giving orders. No one looked at her twice. Every day, she cleaned places others avoided. Old halls, unused rooms, forgotten doors, sealed with warning signs. One door always made her stop. It was deep underground, far below the living floors. The air there was colder. The lights flickered like they were afraid. Behind the door was a chamber with 3 glowing cages. Inside, those cages were birds. They were large, strange birds, unlike anything Elia had seen before. Their feathers shimmered like metal and fire, mixed together. Chains of light wrapped around the cages, humming softly. Other servants whispered about them. Some said they were weapons. Others said they were monsters that once destroyed worlds. Elia only saw sadness. The birds were quiet. Too quiet. She noticed their eyes first. They watched her. Not like animals, but like someone thinking. The first time she came, she just cleaned. She did not speak. She did not stay long. But that night, when she returned to her small room, she could not sleep. So the next day, she stayed. Elia stood near the cages, holding her cleaning cloth tight in her hands. Her heart beat fast. "I'm sorry," she whispered, not sure why she said it. The birds did not move. She cleaned slowly. The sound of her footsteps echoed. The humming of the cages filled the room. Then, without thinking, she began to sing. It was a simple song, one her mother used to sing when food was gone and nights were long. A song about warmth and morning light. Her voice was soft, weak maybe, but the air changed. The lights flickered harder. One bird lifted its head. Another spread its wings slightly, chains rattling. Elia froze. "I'll stop," she said quickly, fear rising in her chest, but nothing bad happened. So she kept singing. The sound moved through the chamber like water. The cages glowed brighter. For just a moment, Elia thought she saw something else under the feathers. Scales, fire. Eyes too old to be birds. She shook her head, just tired. She told herself, from that day on, she sang every time she came. She sang while cleaning. She sang while feeding the birds. She sang even when her throat hurt. The birds changed slowly. One grew stronger wings. Another stopped shaking in the cold. The third began watching her with something like hope. Elia noticed marks on the floor too. Burned lines that were not there before. Far above, palace systems began to fail. Sensors showed strange energy spikes coming from the underground levels. Guards argued. Nobles demanded answers. Old records were pulled from sealed archives. Names were whispered. Dragon princes. The curse of silence. But Elia knew none of this. She only knew that the birds listened. One night, as she sang, the largest bird stepped closer to the bars. Its eyes glowed gold. Elia felt tears fill her eyes for her. "No clear reason. You're lonely too," she said softly. The bird lowered its head. Deep inside the cage, something cracked. Not the metal. Not the chains. Something older. Somewhere in the palace, alarms began to wake. Power surged. Locks shifted. The curse, untouched for centuries, had begun to weaken. All because a human maid chose to sing in the dark. Elia did not notice the changes at first. She only felt them. The air in the lower halls felt warmer now. The lights no longer flickered as much when she walked past. Sometimes when she sang, her voice echoed back to her in a strange way, like the room was listening. She kept coming every day. Other servants avoided the underground level even more than before. They said machines were failing. Doors were unlocking by themselves. Strange shadows moved where no one stood. Elia heard the whispers, but said nothing. Inside the chamber, the three birds waited. They were no longer still. The smallest bird began, walking the edge of its cage, feathers brushing the light bars. The second bird spread its wings wider each day, testing the chains like it was learning their limits. The largest bird only watched Elia, its golden eyes calm, deep, and heavy with thought. When Elia sang, the birds leaned closer. Sometimes, when her song ended, the chamber stayed quiet for too long, as if something wanted more. Elia started bringing food she was not meant to give, better grains, warm water. She risked punishment without thinking. "I know you're hungry," she whispered one night, sliding the bowl closer. The largest bird made a low sound, not a chirp, not a cry. It sounded like a voice held underwater. Elia stepped back, heart racing. "I'm sorry," she said again. But the sound came again. Clearer this time, a word not spoken with a mouth. But inside her mind sing. Elia froze. She pressed her hands to her ears. No guards came. No alarms sounded. The birds were watching. Her breath shook, but she sang. This time the song was stronger. Not louder, but deeper. The cages flashed bright white. The chains hummed in pain. Elia felt heat rush past her like a breath from a furnace. Her hair lifted. The floor cracked under her feet. Then it stopped. She fell to her knees, shaking. Birds were breathing hard now, real breath. Steam rose from their feathers. The largest bird lowered its head toward her. "You hear us," the voice said, clearer now. Elia cried without knowing why. "I don't understand," she whispered. Images filled her mind. Fire tearing through stars, great wings blotting out suns. Crowns forged from light. Then pain, chains, silence. She screamed and the vision stopped. Elia stumbled back, pressing against the cold wall. "You're not birds," she said. Smallest bird made a sound that almost sounded like laughter. The second bird bowed its head. The largest bird spoke again. "We are princes," it said. "We were kings." Elia shook her head over and over. "No," she whispered. "That's not possible." High above them, the palace council met in fear. Energy readings from the underground had doubled. Ancient warning symbols appeared on control screens. One old noble went pale when he saw the signs. "The curse is breaking," he said. Guards were sent toward the lower levels. Back in the chamber, Elia backed toward the door. "I can't be here," she said, voice breaking. "They'll kill me." "They already tried," the prince replied calmly. "And failed." The chains around the cages cracked again. Elia felt the weight of choice press down on her chest. She could run, forget everything, pretend she never heard a voice. But when she looked at the birds, she did not see monsters. She saw prisoners. She swallowed hard and wiped her tears. "I don't know how to help," she said, "but I won't stop singing." Largest bird closed its eyes. "Then the galaxy will remember our names." Footsteps echoed in the halls outside. Heavy armed. Elia stood between the door and the cages, heart pounding, and she began to sing again. The footsteps stopped just outside the chamber. Elia could hear the guards breathing through their armor. Metal clicked. Weapons powered on. She stood frozen between the door and the cages, her hands shaking at her sides. The birds were silent. Now, too silent. A sharp voice came through the door. "Human Maid, step away from the containment area." Elia swallowed. Her mouth felt dry. "I was just cleaning," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. The door slid open. 3 guards entered, tall and heavy in dark armor. Their helmets hid their faces. Behind them, a glowing drone floated, scanning the room. Red light passed over the cages, over the birds, over Elia. Warning symbols flashed. One guard cursed quietly. "It's true," another said. "The energy." is rising. The largest bird lifted its head slowly. Its golden eyes locked onto Elia. She felt a pressure in her chest. A silent request. The guard leader turned to her. "What did you do?" he demanded. Elia shook her head. "Nothing," she said. "I just sang." The guard stared at her. "Sang?" One repeated, confused. Before they could ask more, the drone began to scream. A loud alarm filled the chamber. The cages flared with blinding light. The chains pulled tight, shaking the floor. Elia covered her ears as the sound cut through her skull. One guard stepped forward, raising his weapon. "Stop her!" he shouted. Two guards grabbed Elia by the arms and dragged her away from the cages. She cried out as her feet left the ground. "No!" she shouted, fighting weakly. "You're hurting them." The largest bird let out a roar, not a bird sound, something deep and terrible. Flames burst from its feathers, stopped only by the glowing chains. The chamber walls cracked. The lights exploded. The guards dropped Elia in fear. Containment breach. Someone yelled over the comms. The leader turned back to Elia, eyes wide behind his helmet. "You will stop singing," he said. Now, they struck her. The pain was sharp and sudden. Elia fell hard against the floor, her head ringing. She tasted blood. The birds screamed together. The sound shook the palace itself. Energy surged upward through the structure. Alarms spread across every level. The guards retreated, dragging Elia with them. As they pulled her toward the door, she looked back. The largest bird met her eyes. "Do not be afraid," the voice said in her mind. "Your song has already changed us." The door slammed shut. Elia was thrown into a holding room nearby. Cold, bare, locked. She curled against the wall, shaking. Her body hurt. Her heart hurt more. She pressed her face into her knees and cried. Far away, the chamber fell silent again. The cages dimmed. The chains tightened. Without her voice, the curse clawed back. The smallest bird collapsed. The second bird cried softly. The largest bird closed its eyes, fighting pain that burned deeper than fire. "Hold on," it whispered to the others. "She will sing again." Hours passed. Elia did not know how long she stayed in the room. At some point, the door opened. A single noble stepped inside, tall and thin, dressed in shining robes. His eyes were cold and curious. "So," he said softly, "you are the human." Elia looked up, fear filling her chest. "You do not know what you touched," the noble continued. "Those creatures nearly destroyed the galaxy." "They're not creatures," Elia said weakly. "They're prisoners." The noble smiled. "Exactly." He turned to leave. "If you sing again," he said over his shoulder, "they will suffer, and so will you." The door closed. Elia lay back on the floor, tears slipping down her face. Her throat burned. But inside her chest, something stronger than fear was growing. That night, alone in the dark, Elia sang, not loud, not proud, but steady. And deep underground, far beyond walls and guards, the birds heard her. The chains cracked again. Elia woke before the lights came on. Her body ached. Every breath felt heavy. The room was quiet, but not empty. She could feel it again, that soft pressure in her chest. Like someone standing close, even though she was alone. She sat up slowly. The air shimmered. A shape formed in front of her, made of light and shadow, not solid, not fully real. Elia froze, fear gripping her heart. Then a voice came, gentle and calm. "Do not scream." Tears filled her eyes. "It's you," she whispered. The shape grew clearer, not a bird now, but not fully a man either. Wings of fire and light folded behind a tall figure. His eyes were gold, ancient, and tired. "Yes," the voice said, "I am the one who spoke to you." Elia pressed her back against the wall. "You're "You're not real," she said weakly. The figure smiled, sad and soft. "I am as real as your song." Images filled the air around them. She saw 3 young princes standing together beneath a burning sky. She saw them kneeling before a council of powerful beings. She heard the word mercy spoken like a crime. "They refused to destroy a human world," the prince said. "They called us weak." The images changed. Cages, feathers burning away into flesh and scales, screams that were never heard. "They cursed us," Elia whispered, understanding. "Now yes," the prince replied. "They took our voices, our bodies, our names." Elia covered her mouth, shaking. "Why me?" she asked. "I'm nobody." The prince stepped closer. "Because you sang when no one else cared." He reached out, stopping, just short of touching her. "The curse feeds on silence and fear. Your voice breaks both." Elia felt warmth spread through her chest. "But they'll kill me," she said. "They warned me." The prince's eyes darkened. "They fear what they cannot control." The light faded, and the room went still again. Moments later, the door opened. 2 guards entered, rough and silent. They dragged Elia up without a word. She was taken back underground, deeper than before. They pushed her into the chamber. The cages stood where they always had, but the birds were weaker now. The smallest lay still on the floor. The second struggled to breathe. The largest lifted his head when he felt her. Their eyes met. Elia ran forward without thinking. "Stop!" a guard shouted. She ignored him. She fell to her knees before the cages, tears streaming down her face. "I'm here," she whispered. "I won't leave you." The noble from before stepped into the chamber. "You will sing," he ordered. "And when the curse breaks fully, we will harvest them." Elia looked up at him, fear turning into something harder. "No," she said. The noble laughed. "You have no power." Elia stood slowly. Her legs shook, her voice shook. But she sang, not softly this time. She sang with pain, with anger, with love. The chamber screamed. The cages cracked wide with blinding light. The chains burned red. The birds cried out, not in pain, but in strength. The noble staggered back, shouting orders. The guards fled. Elia collapsed to her knees as the light faded. The bird stood taller now, stronger. The largest bird bowed his head to her. "You are no maid," the voice said in her mind. "You are the one who remembered us." Alarms echoed through the palace. War was coming. And Elia knew there was no turning back now. The palace did not sleep that night. Lights flashed red across every level. Sirens howled without pause. Guards ran through halls that had never known fear. Deep underground, Elia knelt on the cracked floor, breathing hard. Her throat burned. Her head spun. The chamber was no longer the same. The cages still stood, but they were broken and bent, like old bones. The chains no longer shined. They hung loose, melted, and dark. The birds were changing. The smallest bird pushed itself up, feathers falling away like ash. Under them, glowing scales appeared. The second bird stretched its wings wide, tearing what remained of the cage apart. Fire rolled across the floor but did not touch Elia. The largest bird stood still. Its shape shifted slowly. Wings grew wider. Feathers turned into armor-like scales. Its eyes burned bright gold, filling the chamber with warm light. Elia watched in silence, fear and wonder mixing inside her. The noble's laughter had stopped. He stood near the door, pale, shaking, staring at the creatures before him. This is not possible," he whispered. The largest dragon stepped forward. The floor cracked under his weight. "It was never impossible," the voice said, calm and deep. "Only delayed." The noble stumbled back. "You were cursed," he shouted. "You were broken." The dragon lowered his head slightly. You broke us, he replied. And she reminded us who we were. Guards poured into the chamber, weapons raised. They hesitated when they saw the dragons. Fire! The noble screamed. The guards obeyed. Blasts of energy filled the room. Smoke and sparks exploded everywhere. Aelia screamed and covered her head. When the smoke cleared, the dragons still stood. The blasts had vanished against glowing shields of fire and light. The second dragon moved. He breathed out slowly. A wall of flame rolled forward, not wild, not cruel, controlled. The guards dropped their weapons and ran. The noble fell to his knees. No, he whispered. You can't. The largest dragon turned to Aelia. She looked up at him, shaking. I didn't mean for this, she said. I just wanted to help. The dragon lowered his massive head until his eyes were level with hers. And you did, he said. More than you know. He straightened and faced the noble again. You fed on our silence, he said. Now you will face our truth. Above them, the palace began to break. Energy surged through its core. Old systems failed. Hidden locks opened. Across the station, human workers were freed from sealed quarters. Cells opened. Chains fell. Aelia felt the ground tremble. The smallest dragon moved closer to her and curled around her protectively. Do not be afraid, he said softly. We will not let them touch you again. Tears filled Aelia's eyes. I'm just a maid, she said. The dragons laughed, not cruel, not loud, warm. You are the reason we stand, the second dragon replied. That is more than a crown. The noble tried to crawl away. The largest dragon stopped him with one claw. You called us monsters, he said. Yet you caged us. You drained us. You feared mercy. Fire gathered in the dragon's chest. Aelia stepped forward suddenly. Please, she said. Don't kill him. The dragon paused. He looked at her, surprised. Why? He asked. Aelia swallowed. Because if you do, she said, you become what they said you were. Silence filled the chamber. Slowly, the fire faded. The dragon pulled his claw back. You still teach us, he said quietly. The noble was taken away, broken and screaming, by his own guards. The dragons turned toward the ceiling. The palace will fall, the largest dragon said, but the innocent will not. He looked down at Aelia. Hold on. Before she could speak, warm claws wrapped gently around her. With a thunderous roar, the dragons burst upward through the palace. Metal shattered. Glass exploded. Cold space opened above them. Aelia clung to the dragon's scales as they flew into the open sky. Below, the palace burned. And across the stars, ancient names began to awaken again. Cold space opened around them. Stars stretched like broken light as the dragons flew free from the falling palace. Aelia held on, her hands buried between warm scales, her body shaking from fear and wind. She had never left the station before. Below them, the palace broke apart. Large pieces burned as they fell toward the dead blue world. Smaller lights escaped in all directions. Ships carrying workers, servants, and prisoners. The dragons circled once, watching. They did not chase. They did not burn. They waited. Aelia felt the largest dragon slow. His wings beat steady and strong. It is done, he said inside her mind. The cage is gone. They landed on a wide metal platform floating near the remains of the station. Emergency lights glowed softly. Human workers were already there, confused and afraid. When they saw the dragons, panic spread. Some screamed, some ran. Some fell to their knees. Aelia slipped down from the dragon's back. Stop, she cried, her voice shaking but loud. They won't hurt you. No one listened. The smallest dragon lowered his head slowly, making himself smaller. We will not burn what was already broken, he said, his voice reaching all of them. The sound was calm, clear. The fear slowed. A human man stepped forward, hands raised. You saved us, he said to Aelia, eyes wide. We saw the doors open, the locks fall. Alia nodded, not trusting her voice. The largest dragon looked across the platform. The rulers are gone, he said. Their lies are finished. Ships from nearby systems began to arrive. Military, observers, old enemies, weapons locked onto the dragons. Elia's heart raced. The second dragon stepped forward, wings spreading wide. We will not run, he said. We hid. Once, never again. A voice came through the air, amplified and cold. Dragon princes, it said. You are accused of past destruction. Surrender now. Alia looked up at the dragons. You don't have to fight, she said softly. Please. The largest dragon lowered his head toward her. We will not fight, he replied. We will speak. He lifted his wings higher. A wave of light rolled outward. Not fire, not force. Memory. Across the ships, across the stars, minds filled with truth. They saw the princes refuse orders. They saw the human world spared. They saw the curse placed in anger and fear. Silence followed. Weapons powered down. The voice returned. Weaker now. The evidence is clear, it said. The charges are withdrawn. Alia felt her knees give way. She sat on the cold metal. Breathing hard, the dragons were free. Across the galaxy, messages spread fast. The dragon princes have returned. The curse is broken. The human maid is alive. Delegations arrived. Kings, leaders, warriors. They bowed to the dragons. Then, to Elia's shock, the dragons bowed to her. Elia stood quickly. No, she said. Please don't. The largest dragon smiled, something gentle in his ancient eyes. We bow to the voice that remembered mercy, he said. That is older than any throne. She shook her head. I don't want power, she said. I don't want to rule anything. The second dragon laughed softly. Good, he said. Then you are safe from becoming like them. The dragons took their place among the stars, not as kings but as guardians. They burned no worlds. They ruled no systems. They watched. Elia was offered everything: wealth, homes, titles, long life. She refused all of it. She chose a small ship, a quiet path. Sometimes she traveled with the dragons. Sometimes she stayed among humans, wherever there was fear, wherever there were cages. Alia sang, and far above, 3 shadows of fire circled. The stars, listening. Because even dragons remember the one who sang to them when they were forgotten. Asterisk. Time passed. Not fast, not slow. It moved the way songs do. One note at a time. Elia no longer wore a maid's uniform. She wore simple clothes, soft and plain, chosen by her own hands. She lived on a small green world near a quiet trade route, a place most ships passed without noticing. That was why she chose it. Every morning, she walked to the edge of the small town where children waited. Some were human, some were not. They sat in the grass and listened as Alia sang. She never sang about dragons. She never sang about fire or battles. She sang about warmth, about hope, about being seen. Across the sky, 3 shapes often passed overhead, high and distant. Most people thought they were clouds. Alia knew better. The galaxy had changed. Cages were no longer hidden as easily. Old rulers fell. New laws were written. Whenever a prison was found, whenever a curse was whispered, the dragons appeared. They did not destroy. They freed. On one distant station, a young alien girl pressed her hands against a glass wall and cried. She had been locked away for being wrong. Alia arrived days later. She sang. The glass cracked. The girl walked free. On another world, a forgotten machine mind waited alone in the dark, powered down and afraid. Alia sat beside the silent core and sang until the lights came back on. Stories spread. Some called Alia a saint. Others called her dangerous. Alia never answered. One night, under a sky full of stars, the dragons landed near her home. They were larger now, stronger, but their eyes were still the same. The largest dragon folded his wings and lowered his head. "The galaxy sings your name," he said. "They asked for you." Elia smiled gently. "I don't belong to the galaxy," she replied. "I belong here." The smallest dragon looked at the children sleeping nearby. "You could rule beside us," he said. "No cages, no lies." Elia shook her head. "If I ruled," she said, "I might stop listening." The dragons were quiet. The second dragon spoke softly. "That is why you must never rule." They stayed that night, curled like mountains around the small town, guarding it as Elia slept. At dawn, they rose and left, their shadows passing once more. Across the sun, years later, Elia grew older. Her voice grew softer, her steps slower, but the song never left her. When she could no longer walk far, the children came to her. When she could no longer sing loud, they leaned close. On her final night, the sky burned with gentle light. 3 dragons circled low, their wings slowing the stars themselves. Elia lay in her bed, smiling. "I think," she whispered, "it's quiet enough now." The largest dragon rested his head beside her window. "You broke a curse older than fire," he said. "What do you wish for?" Elia thought for a long moment. "Nothing," she said. "Just sing when I'm gone." The dragons bowed their heads. When the sun rose, Elia did not. Across the galaxy, something changed. Wherever there were cages, cracks appeared. Wherever there was silence, songs followed. And in the deepest space, 3 dragon princes sang, not in words, not in fire, but in memory. Because the smallest human voice once reached them in the dark, and the universe never forgot that song.